Howdy, and welcome to Moose Podcast number 433, Winter Shooting 2025. How you folks doing? Heart still goes out to all you folks in Southern Cal who are dealing with all that came with those tragic fires. At this point, I heard of a number of photographers who lost their homes, and my heart really goes out to you and to all your memories and travels and pursuits. Glad you still have your life and you have your passion. You will carry on. It's been a busy week. I actually, this past week, was in Minnesota at the Zaxim Bog. The Moose Shooting Report will be out this week, but we had our best week ever there. Been going there for years now, and it got down to minus 31, so kind of typical. Didn't stop. We're out shooting gray owls at minus 26, 21, and it was just absolutely marvelous. A couple of you were out there, stopped, said hello, had a great conversation, so thanks. Appreciate that ever so much. I surely appreciate your kind words and support. So it's being recorded, as it has for a while now, the podcast on Adobe Podcast Beta. The speech filter is set down to 70. Last week I set it to 80. No one said anything. It seems to be doing a little bit better, whatever you can do with my voice. Now it's also creating the transcript, which you can find there on the blog post for the podcast, which also has any links for things I talk about, photograph from which comes from the conversation. And you can also find the transcripts at Spotify, Amazon, all those other places where you might be listening to your podcast. And remember, on Spotify, you can make comments. You don't have to email me. You can go right there and make comments. It goes up and down in the numbers. I would love to see a whole lot more. But please feel free to drop on by, ask questions. Appreciate your support. Love talking with you. Well, I got back from Zaxim Bog, and something I've wanted for a long time to replace something I had. Oh, man. I haven't had it since 98, 99. And that's a Nikon spotting scope. Yep, got the Monarch angled body, the 20 with a 20 by 60 eyepiece, 82 millimeter relief. Oh my gosh. Oh, man, is it gorgeous. Now, why do I want a spotting scope? Well, we want one. We've wanted one here at the ranch. It makes it, especially on mornings like right now, what is it? It's -1, so it's a little cool. Don't necessarily want to go out to the bird at the moment, so I let my eyes do the walking, and that's why I've got that spotting scope. It is absolutely gorgeous. The last Nikon spotting scope I had, I probably got it in about 1990, 91. It's come, the technology and the view through it is just absolutely spectacular. So that's really exciting. Also, this week there'll be a blog post about the scope. Another blog post coming up will be about a new eye cup that I found courtesy of Craig for the Z8 and Z9, which is a really nice improvement. So it's that time of year. Manufacturers are slowly coming out. I've got some other goodies too. So make sure you head to the website, look for those blog posts. Let's see here. I haven't started a new book yet this year. I've been busy dealing with a couple other things, and which includes perhaps a copyright infringement on one of my own books. So I haven't been reading, but I'll get it to you. Want to thank my good friends at Bedford's Camera, bedfords.com. those folks, they know it's wintertime and we have fewer hours to be out shooting. So they make it up for it. They've got a whole slew of classes that you can take that some of them are indoors, some are on the weekends. So you can do them in the daylight hours. But these classes, they help you move your photography forward. Some of them are gear oriented, some are subject oriented. They're all photographic and fun. With the experts there at Bedford, as they usually have some factory rep there, some other shooter there. So you have direction, you have purpose, you've got someone to feed your passion. And Bedford's, they've got the gear, they've got the killer prices, they've got the Moose discount. So just head there, bedfords.com. They will help you move your photography forward in 2025. Well, being January 20th, I thought it was the perfect time to start getting ready for the cold. So let's get into winter shooting 2025. I've been doing quite a bit of it already. Have some tried and true things to pass along and some new things. What might be new? Well, hand warmer technology has come a long ways. It's really important when you're out shooting that your hands stay warm. And you've got to realize that when the temperature hits below zero, that's when you have the real possibility of frostbite. The other thing you have to worry about is that if you've got bare skin and it goes against your cold cameras, because they get cold, you do have the potential of the old pole stick like we saw in the movie Christmas Story. Now, I've never seen that actually happen. A couple times I've had that slight tug on my skin. I'm like, oh no, but it didn't stick myself. But it's something we need to think about. So one of the newer technologies is the hand warmers have really evolved the last couple of years. The new ones, and you go to Amazon, they don't have a name, but you just type in hand warmers and you'll see the right first top is the new set that we've acquired. They're 14,000 amp hours. That's 14,000 amp hours. So they got a bunch of power. They're smaller and a tad lighter than the old models. But what's really cool about them, they come in their own case. And their case is what you see a lot this year with a lot of electronics. You put your item in it, and the case will actually charge the unit up. In this case, the charge of the case for these hand warmers will recharge them 3 times. And that's going to give you about 15 hours of running time. So they're really nice. Now, the hand warmers, personally, I put them in my jacket pocket. Excuse me. Now, I do have, and I haven't apologized for not putting up my glove post for the year, but my ice climbing gloves do have a zippered pocket on the back. So the hand warmer would be on the back of your hand. And these new ones just barely fit in there, but the zipper doesn't completely close. It closes enough, they won't fall out. But you can put those in your gloves. That keeps those digits really toasty. So that's the one new technology. One piece of advice is, well, at least here in Montana, the Costco's have a complete aisle section, both sides up and down, devoted to cold weather clothing. And it's got my favorite socks there. And those socks, they're electric socks. Actually are Bluetooth, so you can control them with your phone. I have some mischievous people on my snow coach who like to go over to other people's socks, because it's not a secure Bluetooth thing, and crank them up or turn them off. So you can have some mischievous fun with them. But Costco has those at 40% less than what they're on Amazon. They have my latest level 1 gloves, as we like to talk them. They have them at Costco. I found them there. Just like they're jogging ice gloves or jogging and ice gloves. Anyway, they were just $7 for a pair. They've got so that's kind of new, is that Costco has an entire section of really excellent, if not outstanding, cold weather clothing. So here's the trick, and it is a trick when it comes to winter shooting, is that for you to get those great shots, you have to be comfortable. That's really the first thing. If, for example, if your hips or your knees start vibrating, they start shivering, that's the first sign your body is trying to get warm blood moved around because it's starting to feel cold. You don't want to get to that point. You want to avoid that point. So if you are shivering, you cannot hold that camera still. You're not going to get the sharp picture. So that's the most dramatic link between you, the photographer, being comfortable and getting better shots. At the same time as being comfortable, you have to be able to function. So this whole thing about winter shooting, you have to they have to go hand in hand. You can't just do one or the other. So let's start with your basic self. Shoes are important. They're very important. Now, you can get like the military bunny boots. You can get Lacoste. There's a lot of incredibly heavy-duty, warm shoes. The one issue is that if you are getting in and out of a car, those boots make things difficult. And if you're trying to walk around, they can make it difficult. If you're going to be in the snow for hours and hours, maybe ice fishing, maybe you're going on a 4 or 5 mile walk, then these kind of shoes make some sense. But if you're getting in and out of a vehicle or a snow coach, or just not going to be living in the snow, they don't make as much sense. So I got this, personally, the Merrell ice packs. They do a great job. They zip up. You can put in 2 layers of socks if you want them, or the electric powered socks from Costco. They do a great job. They have a technology in their sole, which I don't understand, but basically as they get colder, these little points come out. So they're not like steel cleats, which we do use and do for ice, and they can be really, a lifesaver sometimes, especially if you're not real sure on your feet. But these Merrell ice packs have little nubs that come out that do make a difference. So there you go, shoes and socks. Now, depending on who you are and how comfortable you want to be, you either need to get some long underwear, thermal underwear, and they come in many different flavors these days, which is kind of cool. I got Sharon ones that are kind of fleece lined that are just, they add just a tad more density, and if you don't weigh anything and don't have any natural fat, well, these things are going to keep you warm. The flip side, if you're like me, you've got some natural insulation, which we won't talk about, then those would be a little bit overkill. So I just used the Duluth, and Duluth has had a huge sale going on, 50% on everything, in case you didn't get what you need for Christmas. Because I use the Duluth long thermal underwear. I use the Duluth fleece line pants versus the felt line. I use fleece because they're just a little thicker, a little warmer. Keeping those lower extremities warm is really important when you're out there working in the snow, especially if wind comes up. And like I mentioned, if you don't have a lot of body fat, then you might want to put on a third layer, and that would be wind pants. And layers are really kind of the way you get through and work winter. The trick is, and it's a real trick, is you don't layer to the point where you physically can't move. Again, looking at the Christmas Story movie, right? Ralphie's little brother, his mom wraps him in so many clothes. He can't touch his nose because his arm's got so much clothing on it. Yeah, it's not a good scenario for photography. So you kind of want to make sure you don't get all bound up. And the modern clothing, especially some of the fabrics that came out this year, wow, they make a huge difference. So now it comes up to your trunk layers, okay? We got to have different comfort layers. Now, Duluth makes some marvelous jackets that I can't recommend enough. If you have a Duluth store, walk in. If not, go to the website. But you want to have at least 3 layers. your basic thermal shirt, something over that, and then your jacket. That's kind of essential. So there you have your gloves, your jacket, pants, shoes. Last thing is beanie. Now, you might have grown up like I did with being told that you should have something on your head because you lose so much of your body heat through your head. Well, that statement was actually based on some very old, faulty stuff from World War II. It turns out not to be quite so true. So having your head covered, because heat loss isn't as critical as we were led when we were kids. But you've got to watch your ears. There's not a lot of blood circulating through them. Frostbite on the tip of your nose and your ears are two real possibilities. So beanies, they come in many different shapes and forms and flavors these days. My favorite one is insulated and waterproof. So I actually, love that puppy. So that's clothing. There's your basics. Okay, camera gear. Well, camera gear, a couple things need to happen. Think about. One is that you've got to be able to operate and manipulate the controls in the camera with whatever gloves you have. So when I go out shooting, for example, and it's extreme cold, I'm using my trapper mittens. Those are beaver mittens. You can see them on the website. I can manipulate some of the controls on the camera, but not every single one. The two that give me a challenge are exposure comp and ISO. So I have on my very thin windbreaker liner gloves underneath those. So if I need to manipulate some control on the body, I can pull that out of my mitten real quick, manipulate those controls, and put them back in the mittens and keep warm and keep shooting. Might look funny, might sound weird, but walking into your favorite like REI with your camera body and trying on gloves and seeing if you can manipulate your camera is a real smart thing to do, because you got to be able to work that camera. Going along with that is your jacket. And I've run into a couple people who have had this issue. If your jacket is overstuffed, and more insulation, logically, keeps you warmer, right? But also prevents you from bringing your arms in tightly for proper hand holding. That can be a real issue. So not so much that you need to go and take a camera in with a long lens to practice hand holding with jackets you might try on, but conversely, get the jacket that works for you, and then when you go home, practice hand holding wearing that jacket, okay? Because once you do that, then you've got a working solution between manipulating controls with the gloves and the jacket keeping you warm and still being able to hand hold. You're golden. All right. So you set your tripod down in the snow or on the ice. Just like working in mud or sand, that front leg of the tripod, push it in. Push it down so it will hold. That's important. It will hold and not slip or start to sink on you. It's a real thing you have to worry about, is that it can literally start sinking in the snow, and in that case, gravity could take over and boop, over it goes. Saw it happen just last week. Got to be real careful with that. You might get the Really Right Stuff ice claws, which I really love, and they're kind of standard equipment whenever I'm working on anything that might be ice. I'll be in Yellowstone next week, and I guarantee you those ice claws will be on the tripod. Now, it's not so much with mirrorless, and it was even less with DSLR. It was a real issue with film cameras, and that's the cold and battery life. Now, batteries don't really like cold, but things have kind of moved forward a little bit in battery technology. Not a lot, but I don't have cameras. I didn't have any cameras go down like this last week at minus 26 there at Zaxim Bog. The battery's life was basically normal for shooting stills and video, absolutely no issues. But with that said, having that spare body somewhere in your jacket pocket or somewhere where it's staying warm, it's not a bad idea. You just never know. The thing you have to be careful is that when you exchange those batteries, you don't have any moisture, like even the fleck of snow in there that you put into that chamber Because as soon as it goes in that battery chamber, it's going to do what? It's going to instantly melt. And then you've got water in there. Water and electricity don't mix. Another thing that don't mix is glass and moisture. That's when things fog up and or freeze. Your eyepiece, the eyepiece on that camera, you've got to control your breath. You've got to not take a deep breath when you go up to your camera. You can't breathe on that eyepiece because it's going to fog up. And if it's negative anything below freezing, you run the real chance of that eyepiece freezing up to the point where you can't see through it. So it doesn't take a lot to prevent this. Just not breathing on your eyepiece is the first part. Having an eye cup can make a difference because you kind of form a pocket of air that's warmer. It will, if it does start to fog up at all, it will clear off. And if it's not fogged up, it won't get fogged up because a pocket of air will kind of like buffer the cold off that glass. So it's something you have to really think about. And if you can't make it happen, you better have yourself some Kleenex. Just keep in mind that Kleenex, when you write that eyepiece, it can stick and make the things even worse. So best thing is not to let it start happening. Which kind of brings us to the last point, which is condensation on your gear. Now, this is not new. I've done this technique forever because back in the days of film, it was really serious that you didn't let this happen. And that's condensation forming on your gear. Now, condensation typically is when something is cold and it comes into contact with warm air. Because warm air typically has moisture in it of some sort. Even though in wintertime, your humidity levels go way down, which if you don't know, make sure you have hand lotion with you all the time because otherwise your skin will start cracking. That's because that dry winter air will suck the moisture out of your skin. But when it comes to condensation, okay, if you never let the cycle begin, then you never have to deal with it. And that's really the essential part because once it begins, there are a gazillion cures and all of them take time and often will cause at least one photograph to be missed. So don't let it cycle begin. How do you prevent that? So when I'm out shooting, when I'm all done, end of the day, heading off to a hot dinner, I'm always going to make sure that all my camera gear is put back in the camera bag. The camera bag is usually in the very back of the truck with no heater vent on it. It's not freezing outside cold temperature. It's not warm in the vehicle temperature. It's somewhere in between. When I put it in that bag, and that's where it stays. Then I go back to my room. The first thing I do is I take off my shoes right at the door because they've got all that snow and ice on it. And as soon as it hits the warm room, it's going to just melt off and make a puddle. So I take them off right by the door. That's just a mountain habit. Then I'm going to take my camera bag in. Before anything else, I'm going to make sure I have a clean white bath towel. It doesn't have to be white, but a clean bath towel, a big towel. And I'm going to have already pulled my battery and cards from my camera before I took it and put it in the bag in the vehicle and got it back. So I have the batteries and the cards separated. I'll come back and either one or two things. If the temperature is, 32 to 0, somewhere in there, I'll take the gear out of the bag, put it on a pillow or or a bed or some type of, couch. And then I'll put the white towel over that and I'll let the camera gear come to room temperature underneath that towel. That way, any moisture in the air will collect on the towel, not my gear. And the camera bag will be closed up, so any moisture can't suck up into there. Now, if it's 0 to like minus whatever, what I typically do is I will go back to the room and I will have everything on the camera. I won't take anything out, looking at the temperature. Put the bag down. I put the white towel on top of the bag. So the camera bag, camera stuff is all there in one unit. And I'll let it sit that way for an hour or two till slowly the outside of the bag gets to, close to kind of room temperature. Still in that white towel wick up any moisture that might be collecting. Then I'm going to open up that bag, grab the camera gear out, put the camera gear on the bed, put the white towel over it, grab the batteries and cards, and let the camera gear slowly get to room temperature again under the towel. The towel being the mean of wicking up any moisture in that air that would otherwise collect on that gear. Then I'll go about doing things like charging batteries, wiping cards, uploading the cards, taking care of all that stuff. And once the gear is all warmed up, which is normally by the time I go to bed, I'll clean anything that needs to be cleaned. I'll take care of the sensor. Then I'll take all that camera gear, I put it back in its camera bag, zip it all up, and I put it in the coldest part of the room. Coldest part of the room. So it's not hermetically sealed, but it's kept as sealed as possible so I don't start the cycle of any moisture. So like when I'm out there shooting the field, I'm really, really, really cautious that not one bit of snow gets inside the camera bag. Because it gets inside, what's going to happen? It's going to melt, and then you start the cycle. I make sure I don't put any camera gear away that has any snow on it. How do you do that? Well, if it's snowing, I always have my white towel with me. Okay, and that white towel, what does that do? I use it, and I just like in the old jokes about being in the locker room and snapping somebody with a towel, I will use that towel and I will snap it on my camera gear to get snow and ice off. And I'll make sure it is as clean as possible. The one thing I don't do is I don't blow it with my breath, because your breath is warm and moist, and it hits that cold snow on that cold gear, and instantly it melts and starts going places I don't want it to go. You could actually have the old nitro blower, any kind of blower, and use that to blow off snow if you're really concerned about it. But I don't use my breath. So it all goes back into the camera bag as dry as I possibly can. That way there's nothing in, moisture in any surface inside a wrap, lens cap, anything goes in there. And knock on wood, I've not had condensation problems for eons. Last thing I'm going to leave you with is keep in mind that with all that very, very dry air, static electricity can be an issue. All you got to do is take your beanie off your head and you see your hair go up, and you know that there's a lot of static in the air. Our cameras are ungrounded computers, and it's important that you understand that there are times where a static charge can form and the camera will just shut down. And it doesn't like turn off, it just like freezes, not like frozen like, popsicle, but it just, no button will make anything work. And all it is a static charge, because the computer in the camera is not grounded, and static charge just locked it up. Real simple, takes seconds to take care of. Don't freak out. Take a deep breath. Always a good thing in photography. Take a deep breath, and then remove the battery from the camera. Turn the camera on. Depress the shutter release button. 5-6 seconds. Wipe the ends of the battery off. Just wipe the end off on your clothing. That's all it takes. And then put it back in your camera, turn it on, and away you go. It's just that simple. To break that static charge, camera will keep on going. And when it's really bad, doing this 2 or 3 times in a shoot, I've done that. And it's just, the static just builds up. You walk around, you can rub your arms on your torso as you bring them up to fire the camera, it transmits right to the camera. Boom, it just locks up. But it's easily dealt with. So there you have it. There's your winter shooting for 2025. You folks have a great week. Stay warm with this Arctic blast that's coming down. And remember to make every click your story.